Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Journey of You podcast. Today, Felicia, am doing a solo episode on transitions and how transitions are naturally occurring throughout our day. And oftentimes they pass without us even noticing. What do I mean by a transition? A period or phase in which a change or a shift is happening. And we experience so many moments of this each and every day. And I don't think we stop. I don't think we stop to realize it at any given time, how much and how powerful those transitions can be for us to also shift. So, with that, today's episode is all about how to use these naturally occurring shifts in our day to help shape our experiences.
This is Joy, the Journey of You podcast. We're your hosts, Devin,
Chris,
and Felicia.
And we're here for joy.
This podcast is your permission slip to reconnect to your inherent joy and to embrace it.
Let's fill up the cosmic joy pot together as we dive into today's episode.
All right, listeners. So we're talking about transitions. What do we really mean, right? The most stark transition that we can talk about is when we wake up, when we go from a sleeping state to an awake state throughout our day. Not throughout our day, sorry. I just meant when we transition from sleeping to awake. That is the biggest shift that we have in our state of consciousness. And it can also occur in smaller ways throughout the day. So let's say I'm just changing from task to task. I'm going from a meeting and then I'm going to go, make my lunch, something quite simple like that. And why are we talking about this today? I don't think we realize, because they happen without us even being aware of it. I don't think we realize how potent these moments of transition can be and what can occur in these transitions, right? So if I'm not aware of these transitions happening, let's take you through a day, right? I wake up, I roll out of bed and I think, okay, gonna go make my coffee or my tea. And then I roll through the list of the things that I have to do in the day. And then I just jump in task to task to task. And I don't stop to set my tone for the day, right? I don't stop to take a breath between these moments of doing different tasks. And what can happen in these states is that we get a little swept away by all the external circumstances. Okay. Let's say I'm at work and I'm putting out fires on a continuous basis and I don't stop to pause and reflect and just take a breather. And in these moments, I can shift my entire mentality, my energy, and my perspective in just one moment, right? So last week we talked about motivation and how to kind of move stagnation through the body and move through procrastination when things don't feel like they're the right time to do something, right? And it's in that moment when you're doing that movement that energy can shift. So while I wasn't talking about it last week in relation to transition specifically, the same thing applies here. Is when we're moving from task to task in kind of a frenzy and a flurry, we can get lost in that, swept up in the emotions of the day-to-day and just end up riding them a little bit subconsciously / unconsciously. And it can tend to rule our days. And then we go to sleep, or, we need to unwind. And oftentimes we do that unconsciously also by scrolling through social media or picking up a book or watching some TV to kind of numb those emotions out, or to just come down in your own body from the stress and being on for the entire day, right? So what we're talking about today is how can we use these moments, these pauses, these natural times in our day when we're shifting from one thing to another in to our advantage. And with just a bit of intention, we can shift our entire perspective and thus our entire experience of the day. And when we do that day after day and we practice it day after day, we end up having good weeks and good months. And we notice these things, small little shifts really begin to add up and build. So what we'll talk about first, right, is that moment when you're shifting tasks. And let's say you feel like you have no time and you don't take a moment for yourself to breathe between going from meeting to meeting, right? And it doesn't have to take long, right? So let's do that right now, where you just notice where you're at in your mind and even in your chest space. So the quickest way to come back to your presence is notice your breathing. Yeah. Take that deeper breath. Notice how you're holding your shoulders and your neck and even your spine. And see if you can just settle into your body for a moment. Notice what that does already just in that shift in your chest space and your head space. Feel that breath coming in through the nose, filling up your lungs. And then that exhale, soften, maybe even just slightly softening those edges, softening your muscles and your shoulders. Draw that breath deeper into your belly. And then let it go. That's it, right? 30 seconds can shift your entire presence from either worrying about the meeting that just happened or the thing that just happened 30 seconds ago, what you were just saying, and or from thinking about the multiple things of to-do lists that you have running through your head constantly. And in that moment of pause, in that moment of presence, you just slow things down and allow yourself to come into some clarity instead of blindly or boldly or barreling through to the next thing each moment. And now that you've experienced that, right, the same thing, the biggest transition that we have in our day is when we come from sleep to awake. And I started talking about this earlier, but let's dig into that now. Because sometimes, it's easier when, let's say, when I'm not conscious of it, or when I'm choosing to be in my state of, it's not even going with the flow. It's kind of just losing myself to being not victim, but following the whims of whatever comes my way without taking that intentionality for it, right? So just think for a second about what the first thing is that you do in the morning. If you're like me, when we're not being conscious of it, or when we're just kind of rolling through the day or rolling through our lives, you might reach for your phone first thing in the morning, right? And you might start scrolling social media or whatever news app that comes up, or whatever it is for you, even listening to messages, right? Or not listening, but even reading through messages. And so there are things in your day that can either give you energy or take energy from you. And while our phones can be quite useful, right? A lot of the times when we're not using them intentionally, they can drain our energies or set the mood for the entire day. And whether that's following a social media account that maybe gives you bad news, right? Or it's videos of cute puppies or cute animals doing fun things that give you maybe some hit of dopamine, right? And then that sets the tone for your whole day. Depending on how much you scroll through or what you're looking at, that will set you up. And so, what if we chose to use that time intentionally? What if instead of reaching for the phone the first moment of the day, you took a breath and you just laid there with your eyes closed and did that same exercise where you felt into your body, kind of noted what you're feeling like, what your body feels like. Notice how your breathing is. Maybe even taking a bit of a stretch, right? Like when we were kids, or if you watch your pets wake up, the first thing that they do is they reach their arms overhead or they take a little stretch, right? And so what if we took a moment to feel into the body before we even reach for the phone? And hear me out. What if we even said, how would I like to feel today? What do I want to experience today? And then maybe you take some time to visualize the things that you have to do today, right? Because, we do live in society where what is the word I'm looking for? Where we co-live, where we cohabitate on this planet with other people, right? And so we do have to maybe interact with others. And we may have jobs that we have certain tasks that need to be completed, or you're a parent and you need to take care of another being, right? And so what if you took some time in the morning to visualize and dream about what your day could look like and how you want to experience these day-to-day things? What could be possible? And again, this does not have to take that long. For me, when I first started doing this on a day-to-day basis, it did take a little longer because the practice of that visualization, I almost went into too much detail to try and really feel into every single thing I did. So it took me a little longer. But with practice, the more that you do it, the quicker it can be. And you can even just play the question game with yourself. So Chris has mentioned this in past episodes, right? The brain and the reticulating activator system. Sorry if I got that wrong. The RAS. It's our brains are a problem-solving machine, right? And oftentimes people spend so much time dreading or dwelling on the negative things that could happen in the day or how things could go wrong. What if we spent just a bit of time in the morning priming yourself, prepping yourself to envision all of the wonderful things that could happen in the day and how something could go right? And the brain, this RAS function of our brain, is there to help you look for all the ways that this could go right. Right. And so all of that being said, this is my invitation for you. And even if it seems a little bit far-fetched for you to do that as a morning routine, right? To not look at your phone, maybe we take a baby step of, okay, anytime I transition from one task to another or one part of my day into another, I just take a breath. I take one breath and I feel into my body. I feel my breath moving in through my nose, into my lungs, and then out through the body, through the exhale. And I take that one moment for presence to come back into my body, come back into stillness, slow things down. And then ask myself, okay, what do I want? What do I need? And the more that you practice that, right, the more that you start noticing these little shifts, and maybe we venture out and we try and do that in the morning for just one morning, right? Set that intention. Maybe even put your phone somewhere where you can't reach it first thing in the morning. And then take that breath before you wake up, before you even open your eyes. Sorry, not before you wake up, right? But before you even open your eyes, taking that breath and feeling into, how do I want to feel today? And then the next step, how do I want to experience my day? Right? What could be good that I experience today? And we start building on that day after day and see what happens. And listeners, that is our episode for today. I encourage you to come into the comments, drop with this episode, how this episode might have resonated with you. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.